Hello, folks. I recognize some familiar faces and I'm seeing some new faces. So I'm Susan Sharpe. I'm one of the CloudIQ product managers. I'm going to give you a few slides just as an overview for some of you who may be less familiar with CloudIQ, and then we'll jump right into the demonstration. So there's been, I think if there could be a bonus word today, it would be intelligent. There's been a lot of discussion about intelligence. And so obviously CloudIQ is really the center of that by providing you intelligent insights about your infrastructure to enable you to reduce risk, to plan ahead, and improve productivity. And I'm going to give you some examples of some of the features that we provide to enable you to do that. I'll put that on the slide, and then that will be an introduction to the demonstration that we'll provide. Since today's session has been brought to you by the word intelligence, I do want to emphasize the point that CloudIQ really pairs the human intelligence with the machine intelligence. When we talk about the human intelligence, one key aspect of that is the fact that CloudIQ will enable customers to invite members of their account team to be trusted advisors, to be part of their CloudIQ community, and really, extend that monitoring team to more of a virtual team with the account team keeping a watchful eye and really sharing their subject matter expertise and tribal knowledge and familiarity with the products, especially what they know and their expertise about PowerStore and PowerMax. So that's both the account teams, it's the subject matter experts, architects, and data scientists from each of the product teams that are bringing their capabilities into CloudIQ. And then the other thing, just in terms of a virtuous cycle, is also leveraging the expertise from our support community as they discover issues in the field and are able to root cause those and identify the signatures. What I like to say is, we learn that from customer zero, and then we can relatively quickly, typically within 24 hours, once the signatures have been identified, apply that to the rest of the community. So we think.
Hey, Susan.
There. Yes.
There's been a lot of discussion earlier about, and I'm not sure, it's a PowerStore Manager or something like that. Where does PowerStore Manager and CloudIQ, what's the boundary between
kind of how does that work out? Sure, great question. So I'm going to oversimplify, and I'll count on the PowerStore team to keep me honest, especially my friend Avishek. So when I think about, and by the way, the lines are going to blur. So, so that each product will have, we'll start to blur a little bit into each capability, really to help facilitate and streamline operations so that you're not, completely segmented and there's not seams between the two. But typically, when I think about PowerStore Manager or anticipating the sessions later this afternoon with for PowerMax, yes, with Unisphere for PowerMax, I tend to think of element managers as really being more of that active management, more of provisioning storage, modifying what you've provisioned, assigning those, for instance, and I'm jumping ahead to PowerMax, but assigning, for instance, service level objectives for storage groups and things like that. Whereas with CloudIQ, today, it's more of a monitoring and reporting capability. Now, CloudIQ will move to a point of providing active management in the future. I'm not going to talk about that so much today, but stay tuned. And at the same time, the reason that I chose PowerMax as the example is PowerMax today does have a proactive health score. And then we don't want those to be two different health scores, so we're displaying that same health score in CloudIQ. But the most important difference is when you think about CloudIQ, and I have a slide that'll show our family portrait, really one of the things that's especially powerful about CloudIQ is giving you those insights and that information and intelligence across your whole environment. Whereas typically, whether it's PowerStore Manager or Unisphere for PowerMax, that's typically focused on individual storage system. Does that help a little bit, Ray?
Yes, thanks a lot, Susan. Appreciate it.
Great question. I'm glad you asked. All right. So the next slide is both to provide the drill down on what I'm claiming here and also the introduction to what I'll show in our demonstration. So there's sort of a lot on this. Again, this is really telling you what I'm going to tell you or telling you what I'm going to demo in the demonstration. But also, kind of giving the click through for, when we talk about these capabilities, what are the features supporting them? So I just made reference to the proactive health score. The purpose of the proactive health score is to identify where there's vulnerability before the actual issue impacts the environment. And those of you who were part of the storage field day, including Ray, a couple of years ago, I talked about some of our performance anomaly detection, and we've continued to enhance that intelligence to add to that, also identifying where there's an actual impact that's been observed. And when I get into the demonstration, I'll show you. And I know I'm talking fast. There's so much that I want to talk about, so I hope I'm not talking too fast. But I will give you references where you can watch a demo recording that is in more sort of normal speed of humans speaking pace. So we've improved that anomaly detection with an additional algorithm that will make that all the more intelligent and specified in the environment. And I have this in the reduced risk category because the more easily we can help our users troubleshoot potential performance impacts, the faster time to resolution. So it reduces risk in the sense that they can remediate those performance issues that much more quickly. And not only identify where there's a performance issue, but with the last item, be able to identify where there are workloads in contention and then be able to distribute those workloads. Maybe, if it were Unity to a different storage pool, if it were PowerStore or PowerMax, to different controllers or different appliances or so forth. So that's the reduced risk. The next area is about planning ahead. By now, you've looked ahead in terms of the slides because you all are used to this. So this is all about capacity, and it's both about identifying immediate capacity issues and then being able to then chart and trend capacity approaching full and also support longer term capacity forecasting. And then bringing it all home in terms of improving productivity. The whole, work smarter capability. First of all, Abhishek talked about that single pane of glass across the, in his session on PowerStore across the we call it ISG, Infrastructure Solutions Group. And you're going to get a family portrait on the next slide. So when I talk about breadth of data center, I think the next slide will really bring that home. So being able to have CloudIQ across that. I referenced the role of trusted advisors, customers being able to invite their account team to really extend their team virtually. And then a lot of communication and collaboration capabilities. We've had a mobile app in CloudIQ for a while. We've continued to iterate on that. I know these days we're not as mobile as we were 2 years ago, but we'll get back to that. And there will be great value in the mobile app. One of the other things I'm going to talk about today are some of the API capabilities and reporting capabilities that we're adding into CloudIQ. So these are some of the main capabilities, that I like to focus on. It's certainly not a comprehensive list, but it's what I want to mostly focus on in our demo. I'll give you a couple of quick slides and then we'll jump into that demo. So this is what I refer to as the family portrait. So you can see there on the left.
Just a question, Susan, please.
Sure.
Can you go one slide back?
Sure.
It's just a brief question. So you're talking about capacity forecasting and prediction. Is it also planned, or do you already predictive analytics for the hardware? So when a disk might crash or something,
yes.
Can you see that from the health scores and then predict?
Yes. So that is built in. So candidly, to give credit where credit is due, products like PowerStore and PowerMax already have that built into the drive firmware. But where this comes together in CloudIQ is then those predictions then are displayed in CloudIQ as part of the health score, particularly in the component category. And I'll try to remember to show that. I don't know if I have an example of that in our simulator, but that is baked into our proactive health score. So great question, Kirsten. Kirsten, did I say that correctly? Okay, excellent. And I have my my participants over here, so sorry for looking over there. It's hard to manage everything sometimes. So thank you. So family portrait time. So storage on the left. CloudIQ actually started by supporting Unity. Some of the sessions earlier talked about ease of use, and Unity, if any of you are familiar with that, was really built on true immediate time to value. I think it was 15 minutes to set up and install. And so CloudIQ was likewise built on that. So some of the things I'm going to talk about today are the things we've added into CloudIQ. I don't know that I want to go so far as to say advanced features, but they certainly take CloudIQ to a mature standing, particularly in terms of monitoring and reporting. So we've come a long way. So we have the storage products on the left, our fiber channel switches there with Connectrix. Then we have our converged and hyper-converged there in the middle, VX block and VX rail. Rob just talked about Apex that we just released or delivered in May, and CloudIQ is right in the center of Apex, supporting Apex products, and I'll show you that in our demo. That's why I'm racing kind of fast. And then expanding, from storage to switch to converge to Apex into data protection. So Power Protect Data Manager, Power Protect DD. But wait, there's more coming soon. We will be delivering support. I can't give dates because it's not there yet, but I'll just say very, very soon we will support Power Edge servers and Power Switch IP networking in CloudIQ. So stay tuned. That's going to be really soon. Let me give one more slide and then I'll jump on into the demo. So I like to talk about the immediate time to value with CloudIQ. So first of all, just by virtue of installing and configuring the Dell EMC products that you saw on the prior slide, then connecting the remote telemetry. So as we come together, Dell EMC coming together really for real to be one company, the corresponding remote telemetry capabilities. And then our users simply log into cloudiq.dell.com, provide their pro support credentials, and they'll see right there in CloudIQ the systems that they're assigned to. And I haven't said it yet, but all of this is available for no additional cost. I feel like a commercial now by saying it that way, but I really wanted to talk about the value first. We really see CloudIQ as an enabler, as really unlocking the value and the intelligence of the products supported in CloudIQ. So we really want to streamline our customers' experience with CloudIQ and enable them to use that as easily as possible. All right, so let's jump on into the simulator. I thought I had that next. All right, so this is the simulator. I do have a link in the concluding slides to where this is. This is available. If I don't know, for those of you on the call, I don't know if you have a Dell support credential account, but that's what you'll need for this. We have a lot of other options for being able to see the demo if you don't. But right here, as I'm looking at CloudIQ and I'm looking at the time, you can see the health across all of the systems in the environment. When I say this is a simulator, it's fully functioning GUI code, but artificial systems made up on the back end. I like to say it's artificial but realistic. And the most important thing I want to say is we really intended the simulator to be as informative as possible. So it doesn't reflect our great honor roll students in CloudIQ. Most of our customers have an average score of 97 to 98, but we're just trying to show you what it would look like if there were some issues in the environment that needed your immediate attention. And so you can see here that in fact, several systems have been flagged as needing pretty quick attention. I want to point out, we talked about single pane of glass, a proactive health score, and Kirsten was asking about this earlier, where, for instance, if there were drives indicating error codes that needed replacing, this would show up in the health score. You notice here you have Connectrix, you have VMAX, if your eyes are better than mine, you have Power Protect DD. And so as I look at the different health ranges, you'll see all of that rolled up here on the overview. Now we know people aren't just watching the CloudIQ screen all the time, so we do also have email notifications. We have, I mentioned earlier, the web app. So there would be the proactive notification from the web app. And again, coming soon, very, very, very soon, we will turn on the ability for our users to be notified by API when there is a new health issue, either a new health issue or a health issue resolved. So that allows them to tie in that health awareness, that health intelligence into their standard ticketing systems like ServiceNow or Nagios or Splunk or Teams or anything like that. Okay, so this is the roll up on the overview. Yes, question.
So there are other solutions like this out there in the market today, and some of them tout, how much they have improved or reduced the ticket rate or improved the time to respond to a ticket and things like that. Do you have any statistics like that, Susan, for CloudIQ?
We do. I have, first of all, I have some anecdotes at the very end. I hope I get to that slide.
Okay.
We've seen, I'll summarize and say, I know there's a lot of different claims out there specifically for the things that I'm showing. So I'm going to show you system health and the fact, particularly that can be tied in with APIs. I'm going to show you capacity approaching full and the fact that right here on our overview, we will tell you starting within a quarter how soon your capacity is going to approach full. And something we've added in recently when there's been an imminent spike on the capacity usage, we've added in showing, I talked about this in the slides, the performance impact and anomaly detection. And I like to call this our unsung hero. This isn't, anything fancy like artificial intelligence or machine learning. But actually, since we launched CloudIQ, we've had this reclaimable storage. We've recently promoted it to the overview to make sure people are aware of that. So that right here, you can see if there are storage systems who have, like for instance, volumes that haven't had IO for a week, or volumes that are no longer attached to hosts that presumably are no longer in activity. And if you think about it, it's not rocket science, it's not artificial intelligence, but think about how long it would take a storage admin to go through their environment and figure that out. And for each of the things I just named, we did a study with Principal Technologies, and it was anywhere from like 10 to 40x in terms of time savings if you were doing this with CloudIQ versus doing this manually.
Yeah.
So, and I can send you the details on that. We're all racing because we have so much we want to tell about our product.
All right. Thanks.
But just from those basic kinds of things, I heard you kind of laugh about the reclaimable storage. It's simple, but powerful.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. And I can definitely follow up with Stephen and the rest of the team to give you the link to that study. I'm going to jump on in the time that we have. I'm going to go ahead to the capacity approaching full. As I noted, again, we'll promote this starting within a quarter when CloudIQ is using our advanced analytics, using a machine learning algorithm based on seasonality to identify when your capacity is approaching full. So for a Power Max, the capacity boundary would be a storage resource pool. For a Power Store, it would be the cluster. So we'll start reporting that, and then we'll tie that in with the health score that I showed you above, with increasing point deductions depending on how close you're getting. And then the latest thing that we've added, and I think we were just working on this maybe at the last storage field days, is identifying when there are items that are what we call imminently approaching full. And I'm just this is one of those show is better than tell. So I have a storage pool that heretofore the capacity growth was pretty flat. And if you look at what that projection to full was, it was still pretty much kind of infinity, right? When it was going to, reach full. But something's recently happened that there's been a spike in that capacity consumption. It's using another machine learning algorithm where we are identifying that capacity spike. And not only are we identifying the spike, but we are identifying what we call the top contributors. That's the euphemistic term. I like to call it the likely culprits for what are the storage objects that are likewise all of a sudden, becoming significantly full. And so the next step would be for the storage admin to go and you can look, by the way, if you look at the time to full, 5 hours, and the remaining capacity, and then the storage objects that are competing for that capacity. So if left unchecked, then you would have a DU because not all of the storage objects can get the capacity they need. So this would this would require kind of real-time analysis. What's going on with the storage objects that they are consuming that amount of capacity? So again, I'm doing a quick run through in terms of this. The next area that I want to talk about here. So that was proactive health, capacity approaching full, and then the performance impacts. And this is where we've added the last time Ray and others were at the last storage field day, we were talking about performance anomalies. We've added, and that's, by the way, indicated in the dark blue shading. And then the gray area indicates the normal range of activity. And notice there's a spike here in latency. This is for a storage system. So for this time of day of week, there's a spike here. And it may be that has become the new normal. But just because it's now been absorbed into the normal range doesn't mean it's not causing a problem. As a matter of fact, it absolutely is causing a problem, as indicated in the pink shading. And the pink shading is using a time series correlation to correlate a spike in latency, and at this point we're at the system level, we'll keep drilling down, to where there's a drop in IOPS, which for me, if I were just looking at this, I wouldn't immediately notice that particular area of the graph as being a problem, but it's a little bit more distinct when we get to the bandwidth drop. So again, to emphasize, spike in latency corresponding to drop in IOPS and bandwidth. And so then the next question is, well, what might be causing that? So here we are again with likely culprits. In this case, we looked at that from capacity earlier. Now we're going to look at this in terms of performance. So these are the most active storage objects for this storage system. Notice, by the way, the in context and time context, easy navigation from storage system to LUN to VM coming next. So rinse and repeat. I'm now at the LUN level. I see similarly normal in gray, spike here. So I can click and by the way, it's easier to see on this graph where there's a spike here, drop here. And then similarly, I click and drag over that spike. And again, rinse and repeat. So I've gone from system to LUN, now to VM. I think it was Ray who was asking about end-to-end awareness, by the way, in the data path earlier. And so here I'm now at the VM level. We have a CloudIQ collector. So we're collecting directly from vSphere. And you can see that end-to-end map and where those performance impacts have occurred within that end-to-end map. So I can click, for instance, here, and I can see anywhere along the path the KPIs for that entity. So one of the main points I want to make is the health gives you the breadth across your environment. The performance impact and anomaly detection gives you the depth from the storage system all the way down to the VM. I know I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to do kind of a hit and run in terms of some of the newest features we've added in. I want to show you our new report browser. I talked about the fact that with CloudIQ, we started with the simplicity, everything on and working by default model. But we've just actually in mid-April, we delivered our custom reporting capability that allows users to create their own views of content. Here's an example where you have a combination, for instance, of a table showing all of the key elements at a system level, and then mixing that table view with a line graph. And it's not just about, and just to show you if users wanted to, move that around, customize their views. So I just wanted to show that in terms of we're starting to move into a user customized experience in CloudIQ. But it's not just about having those reports, but also the power of being able to schedule those. So you can schedule those as frequently as you want, whenever you want them to run, on whatever frequency you want, either in a PDF or a CSV format. And then you can send that to any email address that can be resolved. So it can be, other members of your CloudIQ community. It may be your management staff that's not using CloudIQ. Why anyone wouldn't be using CloudIQ, I can't imagine. But storage admins, management staff. It could be to a distribution list. Maybe they're different teams and they want to use distribution lists. So we're pretty psyched about that. It's super easy to add additional content. It's just a standard report builder with all of your standard capabilities. And you can see, all the attributes. You can filter however you want, sort however you want. Again, I know this is a quick flyby. I will have a link to where you can get a recording for more information on this. And then I will conclude the demo, and then I'll flip to our overall session conclusion by saying that we've also introduced the notion of cybersecurity. It's purposefully adjacent here to system health, and it allows users to see if there are any cybersecurity risks. I don't need to emphasize where we are with cybersecurity awareness and concerns these days, but it allows users to be able to see their cybersecurity risk on a per system basis. And we've also introduced a new cybersecurity role within CloudIQ, the cybersecurity admin. So this is just a view of what we have. You can see some of the issues. And then there's actually a cybersecurity policy editor that the cybersecurity admin has quite a bit of control over editing for any individual system in their environment. So I wanted to emphasize some of the core capabilities that we have in CloudIQ. For some of you who may not be as aware of a CloudIQ, And for folks like Ray who are aware of CloudIQ, I wanted to emphasize some of the newest things that we've added recently, continuing to add new feature functionality. I do want to make sure to also point out that I know Rob talked about Apex and CloudIQ. And so you can see here that CloudIQ fully supports Apex right alongside the CapEx systems. And we have similar views to what you have for your storage systems. But now when we're looking at capacity, we have that capacity in terms of that base and on-demand capacity, just directly corresponding to the subscription detail. And we have an easy in-context link back and forth between CloudIQ and the Apex console where that subscription information lives. So fully supportive of Apex, which we're really excited about. I'll bring it to a close here are some of, and Ray, these are more anecdotal, but 16 hours saved per week from one of our customers at Plex Systems, saving nearly a full day's research per week with a quick status of the most important infrastructure and the images that are available. And I do want to say this was actually before we introduced our custom reporting. So I think we should go back to our friends here and see if there's additional information they want to provide about the benefits that CloudIQ is bringing to their environment. And finally, I'll close out the session. I think we can provide these links following, but we have a CloudIQ webpage with a lot of additional information. We have a very detailed white paper that's publicly available that covers all of the products that we support. Again, I ran through it pretty quickly. And then we have a recorded demo, like I said, that's in normal speaking cadence. You can always pause it and rewind if you want to go back and catch some things. There's an online simulator if any of you have customer or partner credentials. And then there's an interactive demo that's publicly accessible.
I have a brief question regarding the security thing. Did I understand that correct, that it's just about the software versions of the system itself, and if encryption is enabled or disabled, it's not real cybersecurity, isn't it?
Well, so there's actually, I only showed a few of the rules and policies. We do have that more detailed in the white paper, but you can see it's actually a number of things. It's access control, and each of these I could click into and get additional details, but it's across all of these. Let me just zoom in so it's a little bit easier to see all of these different categories. And I should say we went live with this feature for PowerMax on May 26th and PowerStore mid-June, and we went with kind of the preliminary out of the gate rules, and we will be continuing to add more cybersecurity rules going forward. And that is more fully detailed in our CloudIQ white paper.
Is it something that comes from VMware too, from Carbon Black or something like that, or is it your own development?
It's our own development. We have a cybersecurity team working in conjunction with the specific rules and like the PowerMax security team, for instance. So they partnered together to agree on what were the highest priority cybersecurity rules, and then they'll keep working on adding additional ones. So